Musa grew up in a small but lively household. He was the only boy in a family of 5 children, with 4 sisters who were all older than him. From the moment he could walk, his sisters doted on him. They helped him with everything: tying his shoelaces, picking out his clothes, even cleaning up after him when he made a mess. His mother, however, didn't share the same sentiment. She believed that a boy should learn responsibility just as much as a girl. Years later, "Musa, come and sweep this floor," she would say, handing him a broom. "But Mama, Aisha's already sweeping," he would complain. His mother's voice was firm. "And what does that have to do with you?" Musa would grumble but do as he was told. Yet deep down he never truly took the lesson seriously. His sisters were always there, and he grew comfortable with the idea that cleanliness wasn't his problem. His mother's corrections were taken. If his clothes were dirty, one of his sisters would wash them. If the plates were piled up, someone else would handle it. If the room was messy, his sisters would tidy it up before their mother could even notice. It wasn't that Musa hated cleanliness, he just didn't see why he had to put in the effort when there were others who could do it for him. His mother, however, never gave up. She would remind him every day, "Musa, wash your hands before eating. Musa, don't leave your shoes in the middle of the room. Musa, clean your bed. You are not a baby, you are now 15 years, you have grown," said his mother. But her words always went in one ear and out the other. He believed that as long as he had his sisters around, he didn't need to worry about these things. As he got older, the habit stayed with him. While his friends took pride in their neat clothes and well-kept rooms, Musa remained careless. His bed was always unmade, his clothes often smelled of sweat, and his books were scattered everywhere. Still, he didn't care. Until one day his eldest sister, Miriam, got married and left home. Then, one by one, the others followed, moving away for work, marriage, or university. And suddenly, Musa found himself alone. For the first time in his life, there was no one to wash his clothes, no one to clean up after him, no one to remind him to tidy up. His mother watched as the house turned upside down in just a few months. One evening, she walked into his room and let out a sigh. Dirty clothes covered the floor, plates with leftover food sat in the corner, and an unpleasant smell lingered in the air. "Musa," she said, shaking her head, "look at your life." Musa simply shrugged. "I'll clean it later." His mother didn't argue. She simply turned and left. Days turned into weeks, and Musa began to feel the effects of his carelessness. His clothes smelled terrible because he forgot to wash them. His room attracted cockroaches because he never cleaned up after eating. Even his friends stopped visiting because they couldn't stand the mess. After talking to him about cleanliness, Musa had always believed that taste was everything when it came to food because he was a foodie. Ever since he was a child, his mother had scolded him about his messy habits. "Musa, wash your hands before eating," she would shout, watching him grab food with unwashed fingers. "Musa, clean the table after you finish eating. You can't live in filth." She always scored him. But Musa never saw the point. To him, food was food. As long as it tasted good, why should cleanliness matter? He would lick his fingers with satisfaction and grin at his mother, ignoring her exasperated sighs. "One day, this habit of yours will cost you," she would warn. As the years passed, Musa grew into a young man, but his habits remained the same. After graduating from the university, he struggled to find a stable job. He walked from office to office, submitting applications, but no one ever called him back. His pockets were always empty, and he often relied on cheap street food to fill his stomach. One evening, as he lay on his tattered mattress in his small, cluttered room, frustration gnawed at him. Bills were piling up, and his landlord had given him a stern warning about the rent. "I can cook very well. During my university days I mostly cooked for people and they will pay me," he muttered to himself, sitting up. The thought sent a spark of excitement through him. He had watched his mother cook delicious meals since he was a boy, and whenever he made something for his friends, they showered him with praise. "That stew you made last time was fire, Musa," his friend Femi had said just last week. The next morning, Musa took the little money he had saved and went to the market. He bought rice, tomatoes, peppers, onions, Maggi, salt, crayfish, meat, and other cooking species. He found a small corner near a busy street, set up a wooden table, and began cooking. Soon, the rich aroma of his food filled the air: spicy jollof rice, sizzling fried meat, and thick, flavorful soups. He cooks varieties of food. The scent was irresistible. Passers-by slowed down, their noses leading them toward him. Little by little he began to have customers. Before Musa knew it, he had a crowd. People lined up, eager to get a taste of his food. Lazy mothers would buy food from him for their children to take to school, and hungry workers would go to his shop for lunch. Coins and bills exchanged hands, and his makeshift stall became a hotspot. "Oga beg, give me 1 plate of rice with meat," a man said, licking his lips. But there was a problem because Musa was still Musa, careless, messy, and uninterested in hygiene. His wooden table was covered in oil stains. The plates he reused barely got washed properly, leaving grease and old food particles on them. His knives and spoons were caked with dried sauces from the previous day. Flies buzzed freely, landing on his pots and plates. Sometimes he swatted at them lazily. Other times he ignored them completely. At first, his customers didn't seem to mind. The food was delicious after all. People raved about how Musa's cooking could make someone forget their worries. But soon whispers started spreading. "That man's food is sweet, but have you seen how dirty his place is?" one of his customers asked. They talked with Musa to try tidy up his little space he used for cooking. He promised them to change. "My neighbor's stomach was turning all night after eating there." Then things got worse. One morning, a woman rushed to his stall, her face furious. "You, Musa, my son was vomiting all night after eating your food." "What nonsense is this?" After she had taken her son to the hospital, Musa scratched his head uncomfortable. "Madam, maybe he ate something else." "Something else? You're the only one he ate yesterday." Her shouts attracted attention. Other customers murmured among themselves, and some stepped back, suddenly unsure about ordering from him. Over the next few days, his usual customers dwindled. Some still came but eyed his plates warily before deciding to leave. The ones who remained weren't enough to keep business running as before. Musa told himself they would return. But they didn't. One fateful day, health officials arrived one afternoon. Musa was in the middle of frying meat when a firm voice interrupted him. "Are you the owner of this stall?" He turned to find 3 officials in uniform standing before him. One of them held a clipboard, the other wore gloves, and the last had a serious expression on her face. "Yes, yes, sir," Musa said, his heart beginning to pound. "We've received multiple complaints about the hygiene of your business. We're here for an inspection." Musa's throat went dry as they stepped forward. Their eyes swept over his stall, the stained table, the flies, the murky water he used to wash plates. One official lifted a spoon coated in dried oil and frowned. "This place is a health hazard," the woman with the clipboard said sternly. "You are serving food in an environment that can make people sick." Musa opened his mouth to protest, but the officials had already made their decision. "We're shutting this down immediately." They handed him a notice and walked away, leaving him standing in shock. His dream, his food business, was gone just like that. As he packed up his things, his mother's voice echoed in his mind. "One day, this habit of yours will cost you." Now, standing alone with his failed business, Musa realized too late that cleanliness wasn't just about appearance. It was about respect for himself, his customers, and the food he cooked. With a heavy heart, he walked away, determined that if he ever got another chance, he would do things differently. He had learned the hard way. Musa's second chance. Let's see if he would ever change. After a few months of staying in the house, Musa wandered the streets of a city aimlessly, his feet dragging against the hot pavement. He had lost everything: his customers, his stall, and his only source of income. The shame of being shut down in public haunted him, and the whispers of former customers still rang in his ears. He thought about returning home, but what would he tell his mother? That she had been right all along. That his stubbornness had cost him everything. For days, Musa lived off the little money he had left. He stayed in his tiny room, barely eating, thinking about his failure. But as the hunger in his belly grew, so did a realization. His food was good. People had loved it. The problem wasn't his cooking, it was him. His carelessness, his refusal to change, his belief that taste alone was enough. If he wanted another chance, he had to do better. Determined, he set out to fix his mistakes. The first thing Musa did was swallow his pride and visit the one person who had always warned him about cleanliness, his mother. When he arrived at her house, she took one look at his tired face and sighed. So it finally happened. Musa lowered his head. "Yes, Mama." They shut me down. His mother shook her head but didn't gloat. Instead, she set a plate of steaming jollof rice in front of him. As he ate, he told her everything. How his business started, how it thrived, and how it all crumbled because of his own neglect. His mother listened in silence, and when he was done, she simply said, "Are you ready to learn now?" Musa nodded without hesitation. For the next few weeks, his mother became his teacher. She taught him not just about food but about hygiene, organization, and the importance of respecting his customers. "You wouldn't eat from a dirty plate, would you?" she asked one evening as she scrubbed a pot until it shined. "No," Musa admitted. "Then why serve others from one?" The lesson hit home. Under his mother's guidance, Musa practiced keeping his cooking space spotless. He washed his hands frequently, covered his ingredients properly, and learned the right way to store food to prevent contamination. When he was ready to start again, he knew one thing. He could not return to the same dirty stall. This time, Musa planned carefully. He saved every little money he could, and instead of rushing to set up a stall, he focused on getting things right. He found a new location, still in a busy area, but this time he rented a small space in a clean environment. He invested in proper utensils, bought a water container for washing, and even got a simple menu board to make his business look professional. When he finally opened again, some of his old customers hesitated. They still remembered the rumors about his previous hygiene issues. But Musa was ready. He welcomed every customer with a smile, ensured that his plates were spotless, and cooked with extra care. Those who tried his food again were impressed, not just by the taste, but by how clean and well-organized his new place was. Word spread. "Have you seen Musa's new place? It's nothing like before. His food is still the best, and now his place is clean." Slowly, customers returned. Business flourished again, but this time, Musa didn't let success blind him. He cleaned every night before closing, made sure his ingredients were fresh, and even hired a helper to keep things running smoothly. One day, as he wiped down his counter after a busy afternoon, his mother walked in. She looked around, nodding in approval at the neatness of his stall. Musa grinned. "So, what do you think, Mama?" She smiled. "I think you finally understand." And he did. Musa had learned that cooking wasn't just about taste, but it was about care, respect, and responsibility. This time he would not fail. As years passed, Musa decided to go to catering school where he learned how to make pastry and more. And with no time he was very rich. He built a house and bought a car for his mother. Thank you for watching. Please don't make it your last time on my channel, and if this is your first time here, turn on the notifications bell for an interesting story like this. Share your thoughts in the comment section, like, subscribe. See you in my next video. Bye.